So I'm gonna show you guys the classic armbar from mount with a little bit of like a mean detail to it here. So I'm gonna start just mounted on my opponent, which is one knee on each side, toes touching, head hooked and posted out, right? Just like a regular mount. And anytime I'm mounted on my opponent, they're always looking to escape here, right? And one of the best ways to start an escape is to get to her side. So she starts moving to her side and I kind of let that happen. And then I pin her on her side, apply a little pressure behind the arm to keep her trapped there, right? So once she's trapped on her side, I'm taking the hand that's behind her back, going under her head and grabbing that top wrist. And if this hand is a little bit far away, I'm gonna grab that wrist and I'm gonna feed it to it, right? Once I've got this grip here, I'm gonna take the hand that's in front of the body, through the elbow and grab my own wrist, and I'm gonna pull that grip tight so that she's trapped here. Then I'm gonna take my foot that's in front of her body and I'm gonna step that to her hip. I'm gonna slide the knee that's behind the back up past her shoulders and under her head so that she's kind of leaning on it like it's a pillow. Then I'm gonna take the forearm of this grip here, I'm gonna loop it over her head and put it onto her head, right? This is the mean part of the technique. I'm driving down into her head, I'm putting weight, I'm pinning her head into the mat here, right? When I'm ready, I'm gonna take this foot from her hip to the armpit, and then I'm gonna shift all my weight over onto her ribs here. And while my weight is on her ribs, it makes this other leg nice and light to step over her head and into her neck. And then I'm gonna sit back, and as I sit, she connects her hands, right? So now I've gotta deal with this grip and I've gotta break it. So I'm gonna start by adjusting my seating position, getting nice and comfortable. I'm gonna take my leg side arm and reach it through to a deep underhook. That hand's gonna try to reach towards my back pocket. I'm elbow to elbow with my partner. Then I'm gonna take my elbow of the head side arm and reinforce that underhook there. I'm gonna do a thumbs up and apply some pressure wrist to wrist here. And then when I'm ready, I'm gonna fall sideways, putting my ear down to the mat as straight as possible. Sideways to the mat, breaking that grip. I straighten out the arm, I pinch my knees, and I curl my legs and curling into her neck and curling into her armpit. I bring that pinky down to the mat and come over my hip, applying some pressure through the elbow with my hips, raising up my hips as I pull down for my finish. I get into my mount, one knee on each side, feet are up, feet are touching behind her legs, head is hooked and posted, right? My partner goes to turn onto her side, and then when she turns, I pin her with my legs and a little bit of chest pressure behind this arm here so she can't roll back. Then I'm taking the hand that's behind the back, under the head, and grabbing that top wrist. If I need to, I'll go ahead and feed that wrist. Usually they're trying to hide it here. And I'll grab it. I'll go under the elbow with the hand that's in front of her body and grab my own wrist. No thumbs on the grips here, right? Making sure I've got the proper configuration and then pulling it tight so that she doesn't roll back. Then, now that I've got my grip in, I'm able to move my legs into position. So I take my foot and I step it on the hip, and then I slide the knee that's behind the back all the way up under her head like a pillow. I'm making sure that the knee goes high enough to clear the shoulders, and I'm pinching it under her head here, right? Once I'm here, I'm gonna get to the mean part here. I'm gonna take my elbow out from under her head, and I'm gonna create pressure, pinning her to the mat. Super mean here, super heavy. All right. Once I've got this pressure here, then I'm gonna take the foot into the armpit, and I'm not gonna post it straight up. I'm gonna flare that knee out, which allows me to shift my weight onto my thigh and onto my partner's ribs. Once my weight is on her ribs, I'm able to bring this other leg over the head. It becomes light, and I'm bringing it over into her neck. I will make sure that I'm completely in my seated position here in my armbar before I sit back. Now I sit back, and as I sit back, she connects her hands to defend. Now I've got to break this grip. So first I'm gonna adjust my position. I'm gonna scoop myself out so that I've got a better, more comfortable seated position here. I'm gonna take my leg side arm and shoot that underhook through until I get elbow to elbow and I'm reaching that hand for my pocket. I'm gonna take my other hand, the head side arm, reinforce that underhook, and then come wrist to wrist with my thumbs up here. I'm gonna fall to the side for my break, right? If I fall backwards, I give her a lot of strength in this fight, and I wanna actually take that away. So I'm gonna fall overhead so that she can't use the strong muscles of her arm, and I'm twisting the shoulder, twisting the elbow going against all the weak shoulders in her arm and in her elbow here. So I fall overhead as much as I can, straight overhead, falling sideways to my ear here, right? I'm like reaching that ear towards the mat. Then I straighten out the arm, bringing it over my hip, not the center, and trying to bring the pinky to the mat here while keeping that thumb towards the ceiling. I'm trying to create pressure through the elbow here, right? Now, like as I said, arm bars are made or broken in the leg. So the better my leg position, the stronger the arm bar. I'm gonna pinch my knees for a tight leg position. I'm gonna curl my heel into her neck. I'm gonna curl the other heel into her armpit for a really tight leg position, which means that when I hip up now, a lot of force will go into her elbow. I'll pull down on the wrist and very slowly hip up, and look how quickly I get that tap. The looser my legs are, the more I have to lift and pull before I actually get a tap, right? A lot more effort for me, a lot